Hello and welcome to another episode of Mortgage Video Mastermind, where we bring you professionals who share insight into the latest trends, tips, industry, technology, and services to help you create more videos to use in your mortgage business. And we should be live.
All right.
Happy Friday. We've made it through another week. And looking forward to our conversation today. So welcome everyone. We are live with our Mortgage Video Mastermind. And my name is Ginger Bell and I'm here with Scott Sheng. And today it is just the two of us today. So we're going to have a conversation about scheduling because we were actually just talking about that. And
And my severe lack of scheduling and this is an important conversation for sure.
Yeah,
especially when it comes to video, right? Because there is planning that is required with video, because there's the production. Well, there's the content piece. What am I going to talk about? There's the production piece of recording it, and then there's the kind of the post-production. What are you going to do with it? Yeah. Right. And then there's the promotion piece of it. So there are steps in creating marketing videos. And if you don't have that planning, and this is what I find is my reluctance is exactly that, is if I don't plan, it comes down to crunch time and you can't do all of those things just on a whim. So I end up finding myself saying, well, let's skip the podcast this week, and because we're not prepared. And that was exactly so. I am prime example number one of what happens if you don't schedule. You end up not doing it, and that's just not the right answer.
Yeah, absolutely. And it allows, if you don't have a schedule, and I always find one of the easiest ways to make sure you do something is to put it onto your calendar and to make a commitment to someone or to a group. It's just like when we started doing this, and it's like we had talked, it's like, you know what, let's just every Friday we're going to get on and we're going to do a Facebook Live. And that's a commitment. The other thing I've learned is when you do it with someone else, it holds you accountable to it, because it would be easy for me to say, oh, I've got 10 million other things to do today, so I'm not going to do this. But when we both have it, and sometimes Fraser jumps on, we've had Carl White jump on, and that's the reason that we set up a lot of people on here. We've had Ryan on, we've had Kyle on, we've got a lot of other people in the group who are posting videos. So first of all, if you're posting videos in this group, I want to say thank you so much, because that's exactly why we created this group. This group is about growing, about learning, about realizing you don't have to be fantastic, whether you're starting off with, I've never even shot a video, on my phone, to, super fancy studios. We've had some of our individuals on this group who have posted their studios that are like, wow, I'm like in studio envy looking at them. And you have a better studio than I do. I've got great sound equipment, and I've got things that I do because I've been doing video for a long time, mostly on the compliance side and on, underwriting guidelines and things like that for my clients. But really getting into the whole thing as far as equipment, there's a ton of things you can do, but you don't have to have that, but you do have to have discipline. So I think that is the number one thing you have to have when you're doing anything, whether it's creating video, whether it's, having a strategy for contacting your real estate agents, is to have the discipline and the commitment to be able to do that. So that's the first thing as far as scheduling, is put it on your schedule. So just like with your podcast, and I love, and you've had me on your podcast, I had a blast because it's, three of you and you guys give each other shit all the time, but you have that date. And so, just like we were talking, you didn't come up with a topic. Well, that's an easy thing. It's like, come up with a topic. It's like we kind of came up with a topic a half an hour ago for what we're going to talk about today, right?
Yeah, and what I also want everybody to know is everybody goes through this. So what happens is initially you get super excited about doing video. You find our group, you find the mortgage marketing mastermind group, and you get excited about it. And there's all of these people, and you start to do video. But it really is a marketing strategy. We're doing this to build our businesses. We're doing this to get exposure. And at some point, kind of the, for lack of a better metaphor, the honeymoon is over, and then you're stuck in a marriage and you've got to commit to it, and then
Right.
it's work,
Right.
right? So initially it's super exciting and it's new, but then because the other thing about this is this type of video content, not video content specifically, almost all content takes time to build. So if you stop, you're losing all of that momentum that you've built over all of that time, because your exposure, your viewers, your influence grows exponentially over time with consistency.
Right.
And that's what you lose if you're not scheduling, is you lose your consistency. The only way any of this stuff works, and I think Kyle touched on this last week, is, and we know the people in our group right now, it clicked for them. They started seeing results as soon as they embraced consistency.
Right.
And lack of planning is the enemy. That lack of planning is the enemy of consistency.
Right.
So it's yeah. Now I wish I could say I'm an expert. Here's how I schedule, but I'm the student on today's episode.
Yeah, and that's really a matter of constantly being a student. And we know that everything we do, we're constantly a student. I learn from you, you learn from me. It's a matter of being able to
Well, and
um,
the
leverage.
accountability we're building in this community also, it's like we're here for everybody.
Right.
Everybody's here for each other to keep each other going and pushing through.
Yeah.
So as it turns out, Ginger, I heard you created a excellent video planning guide that is available on Amazon. Let's
Our
start
friend
there. Let's
Amazon.
let's start there, because no, because I thought it was very well thought out. I thought it answered a lot of the questions that people have when they're trying to create video. What kind of video content do I create? And sometimes you just need you need a primer, right? You need something to get you going. You need some structure. And instead of just guessing and making it up, your video guide is amazing for kind of helping you get into that mindset of what kind of content, how often do I do it? What is the structure of how I create content? So why don't you start by kind of sharing what the guide is, and what kind of experience went into how you decided how to structure it?
Yeah, well, thank you for that. And yeah, so the video guide, you can find it on Amazon or right here. And I actually created the guide because I had several LOs I was working with to help them come up with ideas for content.
Mhm.
And it really started off with just a simple one pager as far as filling out, okay, you're going to start off with the basics. And I actually talk about this. I have a book called The Edge of Marketer, which is where I started. I was speaking at a couple of events, just talking about the need for creating video a couple of years ago, and had some LOs come up and say, hey, can you do video for me? It's like, no, you guys can do the video. You've got this. And they said, we don't know where to start. It's like, open your camera, shoot your video. And it's just that fear of coming up with, what should I talk about? What should I talk about?
Mhm.
And it's like what we did today. It's like coming up with a topic. And so I said, well, okay, let's figure this out. What should you talk about? And so what the video planner is 52 weeks. So one topic for each week. And it's nothing more than a prompt. So, if you look at, okay, we go to say, this is week 26 and I have in here, it's a customer focus. And I've done different things like general, like first time home buyers, like VA. There's a ton of things to talk about. So week 26 is what you need to know about financing a condo. Simple, right?
Well, I want to back up a second because I think that's one of the more important things that you created there is you kind of created this um, like these general channels, these silos of what type of content to talk about. And because some content is going to be timely and relevant, some may be newsjacking, like what's going on right now today, but you
Right.
also want to always be creating evergreen content, right? So kind of talk through because do you have like four different types of content explain that part.
Yeah, so the idea, and there's many different types of content. So, and some of you may have a niche that you're focusing on, whether it's on renovation home loans, whether it's on VA, whether it's on FHA, whether it's on first-time home buyers, whether you're on,
It can even be a geographic niche, right?
yeah,
Like
it could
hyper
be,
local.
yeah, whatever. But you have to remember, even though that may be your niche, there are a lot of other people that will be looking at your content. And so being able to, run across those different silos, as you say, just builds a broader audience for the videos you're creating, and it opens up possibilities for topics. If you're just working on doing HECM loans, then that's great. Think about all the different things you can talk about within HECM loans. And it could be underwriting guidelines, it could be qualification, it could be those kind of things. But you also have to remember people still need to know about, what is a loan estimate? What is a closing disclosure? What happens at closing? How do you make an offer on a house? So you can pull in those other areas as well, even though you just have that one particular niche. And so the idea with the video planner was to kind of open that for other possibilities. And if you do, let's say you do reverse mortgage HECM loans, condos is a conversation you can have. How can you buy a condo with a reverse mortgage? Now you've just opened another opportunity, another video, and it doesn't have to be a long video. So what I did in the planner is it's just, one page, come up with your topic. So your topic is, and don't overcomplicate. I mean, we just went through this as far as, coming up with a name for what we're doing in our series, right? It's like, don't overcomplicate it. So your topic can be what you need to know about buying a condo with a reverse mortgage. And then, your hook could be your topic. It could be something different. It could be, 3 things you need to know about buying a condo with a reverse mortgage. I always love when you put numbers in there. Dave Letterman always had the top 10, and it was very popular for a reason.
Yeah. The top three reasons or the top three mistakes first time buyers make.
Yeah.
That kind of thing.
Yeah. 3 things you need to know about being a cash offer. I like to use threes and fives. So it's just a thing as far as numbers, and that it usually makes it easier for people to remember. But I wrote the planner in a way that you start off with your topic, you have your opening hook. So in this video, I'm going to share with you the 3 things you need to know about buying a condo with a reverse mortgage. And then it has in the planner, what are those 3 things? And you can get into writing out the entire script. And if you want to, you can just write, ideas. Carl White shared his redneck teleprompter.
Yeah.
I loved. I mean, you can do nothing more than that, where you just have, here's your 3 things you're going to talk about. Number 1, you can buy a condo with a reverse mortgage. A lot of people may not know that. So now you're combining your niche with something else that people could be looking for, buying a condo.
Yeah.
And, the second thing could be going into, what's the qualification? How much money do you need down? What's the age requirement? There's tons of different, little one ideas that you can put into this. And when you start doing this and you go through the process of thinking about limiting yourself to 3 things, you're going to come up with more than 3 things. And so that's great because it could be another video, right?
3 more things.
Yeah. And so, and you might say, okay, now I'm going to do, what you need to do to qualify for a reverse mortgage. Now you're getting into age. Now you're getting into, maybe getting into geographical areas, I mean, all of those things to think about. But the idea with the planner, and we left the planner as a notebook, as a physical notebook for you to write in it. And the reason why is because when you go through the habit of physically writing something, then there is, and Renee Rodriguez would be able to tell you exactly what cortex in the brain actually stimulates all of this. The scientific part of it, I don't know. All I know is just that that will, first of all, stimulate the creativity because it accesses another area of your brain to get you thinking. The other thing is it puts it into you being able to remember it. So going through the process of actually physically writing it down will help you to remember it, which will be better for creating your video. And then, it's just a matter of that writing, going through that process of writing it. It forces you to do that instead of just thinking from your mind, okay, here's the 3 things I'm going to talk about. And then you start shooting the video. It's like, oh my gosh, what were those 3 things I was going to talk about? When you go through the physical activity of writing out those 3 things, it helps you to remember them better, and it helps you to get more creative in the process. And so that's what the workbook is. It's nothing, I mean, it's not anything mind-blowing. It's,
No, it's guardrails. It's guardrails that keeps you honest.
Yeah,
Is what it does.
that's it.
And your whole planner is in here. So as you're talking, I'm thinking, what is the simplest way? So there's a couple of things I want to unpack right here. So the first thing is, I think we as professionals and as experts in our profession, in our industry, we assume that everybody just knows the stuff that comes natural to us. Like we assume, like you talk about, buying a condo with a HECM. I think there's probably somebody out there that says, well, people know how to do that. And no, the answer is no. There might be some people out there, but so the first thing is, don't assume that your cumulative expertise is common knowledge, because it's not. There are a lot of people out there that don't know the things. So even if you think it's the simplest thing in the entire world, like credit scores aren't that important on reverse mortgages, right? Even if you think it's the simplest thing that you think everybody knows, like you have to be 65 to get a reverse mortgage. This is not common knowledge. It's common knowledge to you because you do it every single day. So what I would recommend is find like a niche. I think is super important, and everybody has a niche. They just do. There's something that you gravitated towards. There's something that you're better at than anyone else. There's something that you've done over and over again, whether it's reading tax returns for self-employed people, or whether it's DACA loans, that's coming out right now. Maybe they've always kind of been available, but Visa loans, things like that. But find those niches, and find 1 or 2 of those niches, and kind of just start listing 5 things that you think are the 5 simple things about each one of those topics. The next thing you know, you've got a year's worth of content planned out.
Right.
And what I would probably do, leave some room if there are guideline changes. So that's your current and relevant. Have 1 series of videos that are just evergreen, kind of like these are the guidelines, this is the way that they've always been. And then the third one is, I would interject in there stories about people that you've helped in that niche. Storytelling success stories about consumers you've helped is so incredibly powerful, because it evokes an emotion in you, because you remember that family and their struggles as you guided them through this process with getting them to the end. So those things, current guideline changes, and that's super easy. All of the guidelines have releases, right? So you can just go to the last releases that were published, and the 3 to 5 things that are changing this year or coming up. 3 to 5 things that everybody knows, and then 3 to 5 stories success stories about people. Now you've got 3 alternating content types that you could probably almost do an entire year just on one niche.
Yeah.
So like having that kind of structure, but sit down and write out those silos. At the top of the page, put what your niche or topic is, and then those 3 ways to have a conversation about those topics. And I think you do that, you sit down for an hour with a notebook and you really think that out. And I think you have a year's worth of content. It doesn't mean that you ignore everything else, but really what we're talking about here is building the discipline of processing this information, converting it into topics, and then starting to create bite-sized chunks of education, edu-marketing, if you will, around that particular topic.
Yeah. Well, and Kyle talked about that when he created his YouTube channel, and just how he came up with the topics and exactly what you're saying. Updates are important to be able to add, even though they're not going to be as evergreen. I find that people share those videos because they're current and it's new. And so all of those different silos, one of the things when I wrote my book, The Edu Marketer, I talk about the first thing you're going to do is you're going to figure out your customer segments. So just like you talk about, if that's your niche, in the mortgage industry, we have 2 different customers. We have, and your real estate agents, sometimes we think this is all consumer facing. Your realtors need this information as much as consumers. Absolutely. So you have your 2 different customers, your 2 different audiences are realtors and consumers.
Yep.
And so even under
the same content.
Yeah, and it's the same content. But you may have a conversation with a real estate agent for, say, renovation loans, for example. You may do a video about, hey, did you know you can get paid on a renovation loan? You don't have to wait until the project's done. So you may do a video that's specific to a real estate agent that you wouldn't do for a consumer, because the consumer doesn't give a rip. So, those are kind of things to think about when you're creating content. And then under that segment, so you have your consumers, you have those who are buying a home and those who are refinancing a home. So you're going to have maybe a different conversation or a different video for those 2 different segments. And then under somebody who's buying a home, you have your first-time home buyer. You have those who are moving up, those who are moving down, those who are relocating. You have your veterans. You have those that are under USDA. You have your down payment assistance. I mean, it's honestly, guys, endless on what you can do as far as creating video. And this. You guys got this. I love, and you say this all the time, Scott, if you want to know what to talk about, go to your inbox.
Yeah, or you have the sent folder in your email box. Yeah. Because you already answered all of the questions.
Exactly. It's like whatever questions you're getting in, those are the topics you can do for videos. And then the other thing that I think is very important, and it's really become a big focus for me with my clients, is a why me video. If you do nothing else, honestly, within the next week, then create a why me video. That will help you to really begin to start creating videos. And so a why me video is just why someone should do business with you. And I've been going through this process with a couple of clients right now on creating why me videos. And it's funny because they do the first one and they're like, wow, that was really good. And I hadn't really thought about why somebody does business with me. And then they'll say, okay, can I redo that one? It's like, absolutely. And then they'll come back and you see the passion and you see that commitment and you see that why. And when you do a why me video, I think that will create that foundation of why you need to do videos, because you know why you do this. There are a lot of other businesses we can all be in. And I always say I stay in this industry because it's tattooed on my forehead, too dumb to quit. But truly it's that passion, and you the same as far as being involved in this. So
Okay,
Start
so
with a YB
you
video.
got my juices flowing. There's a couple of things I want to touch on that you talked about. Um, I hope I can recall all of them. So first of all, the Why Me video, you need a channel video for your YouTube channel,
Yep.
and that's your Why Me video, right? So there's a couple of different ways to approach a YouTube channel. It can be 100% educational and not about you. So this channel is informational. Like Kyle doesn't do a lot of why me. Kyle is a very educational, and then you're earning that trust because you're just putting so much good information out there and you're bridging that gap. That's just a strategy choice. That's a personal decision. I don't think there's an advantage to one over the other. The other thing that you talked about with as mortgage people is your real estate agents. Your real estate agents field a lot of questions about the financing, and they're not financing experts. So if you give your real estate agents access to a knowledge base that's easily shareable, then when they get these questions, you're making them look like rock stars because they're just sending your video to their consumer. The last thing that I wanted to say is that these videos that we do are not always about answering specific questions. They are simply representative of the fact that we are problem solvers and experts in our industry. It doesn't matter if they listen or understand or even turn the sound on. It's almost like public speaking, if anybody has ever done that. There is a perceived authority that comes with being out there and being consumable, right? And having your content consumable. So don't stress about the content. It's good enough. And as you do it more and more, it's going to get great, but it doesn't have to be great. The very fact that you're putting that out there is going to make people, you are going to be perceived as an authority, even if you're not the smartest person and you don't know everything about that guideline. You are still going to be put on a pedestal as a perceived authority simply because of the fact that you're publishing it and making it accessible.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah. So, which brings us back to our original topic.
Scheduling. Yes, sorry.
So, come up with your topic list. Do just spend an afternoon, a couple hours, and just come up with topics. Nothing more than topics.
Yep.
And then the second thing is put it into your schedule to record videos. Now, I made a commitment at the beginning of the year to take my 52-week video planner and to do a video each week on how to use the planner. And so I've started doing that. And each week I record a video. It's nothing fancy. I mean, I honestly, wherever I am, if I'm traveling, I just record it and I don't edit it, and I just post it and post it onto my YouTube, post it onto Facebook. You can see some here in our group. And that commitment of doing that every single week, and trust me, there are some weeks where it's like Friday, it's like, oh, I need to do this, I need to do this. But then I was traveling, and so I did several ahead of time and then just scheduled for them to automatically post out, which you can do that on YouTube and you can do that on Facebook. You can do that on your CRM where you're putting it at. So don't think that you have to put it into your schedule to necessarily record every week. You could put it in your schedule to record once a month.
Right.
And you record those 4 videos. If you're not editing yourself, which we're going to, do a topic on editing and how to do that, you can hire someone. I highly recommend hiring someone. I have a full-time editor on my team, and we do a lot of editing for our clients. Just because a lot of the, people we were working with said, you taught me how to edit, but I don't really want to edit. Can you help us? And it's like, yeah, we can figure this out.
And
So
finding a good editor as a virtual assistant on Fiverr or something like that is super easy to do also. Yeah. So, psychologically, the other thing that it's important is to manage your expectations when you're doing this. This is a long game, and it's something that you have to create a habit around. And so that's really what we're trying to do here is we're trying to sit down once and create that path to habitually sharing your expertise, because once you get going, and if you plan a year out, before that year is up, you're going to start getting these positive feedback loops that are going to encourage you to, oh my gosh, I've got to do more. But like what Kyle mentioned last week, and I just, he's just our most recent example, but he went like over a year with less than 100 subscribers, so he didn't have that positive
Yeah.
feedback loop, but he kept doing it anyhow. But then all of a sudden it caught fire.
Right.
And now you're inspired to do it because you realize that you're changing people's lives and you're actually helping people. And so I guess what I can say, and this is from my personal experience, and we've heard it a million times from the stories, is do it whether you think people are listening or not, because when you, as soon as, if you do that, as soon as you start to recognize that people are listening, you're already going to have the habit established. And again, this is Renee can tell you about creating habits and forming these new synapses and
You need to get
stimulating
him on the call. Yeah.
cortex. Yeah, stimulating whatever cortex needs to do that. But yeah, these are the simple steps. These are the baby steps. This is the framework. This is the blueprint. And the next thing that you know, you're going to be inspired. You're going to look forward to doing it.
Yeah.
And then you're off to the races.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. And so, and speaking about the consistency on Fiverr, so one of the things is try a couple different people for editing on Fiverr, and then find one that you like, because I have found in video editing, if you can find one person to work with, it creates that consistency where they know your brand, they have your thumbnails, they know the style you like, and to do all of that. So finding someone on Fiverr, you just kind of have to play around with it for a little bit, look for good ratings, don't necessarily go with the cheapest, but look at their work and see what they do. And you can even sometimes,
And that's another episode.
that's a whole nother episode. Yeah, because trust me, I've had some very, very interesting things come back as well. And I use Fiverr a lot. And there's another one I use too that I like a little bit better that I use for when I hire someone to do my editing. And so we can definitely talk about that.
So maybe we do that next week. So the takeaway for today, grab a notebook. If you don't have Ginger's workbook, get it. Maybe you can have some sort of special for the people in our group. That they can get your book. But if not, sit down with a notepad, set aside at least 1 hour, and just start listing out topics in a niche that you're an expert at. And I guarantee that at the end of an hour, you're going to have a good enough start that you're going to have content for the next 6, 9 to 12 months. And step one is done. Yeah. And then next time we're going to talk about studios in here. We're going to talk about equipment. We're going to talk about editing. But step number one, I would say step 0 is map out your stream of consciousness, map out what you're an expert at, and just get that done.
Yeah.
So what would be really, really interesting, and I don't know if people would want to share this, is if you do this exercise, maybe post it to the group on what kind of ideas, because you'll probably stimulate that for somebody else. If it's a Google Doc or something, you'll probably stimulate some ideas. So if anybody's doing any planning, or if they have a method that they're doing, share that here in the group so that everybody else can kind of see. Because like everything else, if you're not doing it now, it seems like it's scary to start something new, but it really isn't scary at all. It's just carve out the time, sit down and do it.
Yeah, I have a one pager I'll drop down in a link too that goes through just that. So topic, your 3 hooks, and then closing. So that's the other thing that's very important in closing out your videos, is to tell people what you want them to do. So what's the next step?
But we're not worrying about that right now. We're worrying about high level topic titles, and then you use your one pager, and then you start to unpack all of those. Exactly. But baby steps.
Exactly.
That's right.
Very good. Well, that tells me
that's our alarm.
Our time to go, our alarm to go. Yeah. So thanks for watching. Um, it looks like for some reason, Facebook, I have a streaming live, but I'm seeing lots of comments that it's not streaming live. So next week, Scott, we're going to go over to StreamYard because I think Zoom is having difficulties.
Okay.
And so we're going to do that.
We'll
So
post this in the group.
yeah, so we'll talk about that. But thank you so much for those of you who are sharing videos, continue to do that. And that's the whole idea with this group, is to learn and to grow and to get out there and make more videos.